Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Pilates Latina podcast. Mi nombre es Marisol, and I am your host for today. I'm really excited about this episode because I feel really called to talk about this. I know that this episode is going to expose parts of me that I'm not super proud of, and I don't expose these parts because of any other reason other than I think that we can learn from my mistakes, certainly, but I also know I'm not the only person who feels this way. I know that I'm not the only person who's reacted this way. And I know that the Latinas within the Pilates industry can really turn things around in a positive way and make even more of a positive impact, especially as more Latinos are interested in doing Pilates and more Latinos are starting to teach and work within the Pilates industry. So, if you haven't gathered by now, the topic of conversation is basically what does it look like to really support another Latina who does the same thing you do? It might be the same style, it might be the same class, it might even be in the same city. And how do we deal with this sort of natural instinct we have to be defensive, to be paranoid that that person took an idea from us, to be scared that someone is going to take an idea from us or take our clients? Because the reality is that when one person wins, it just makes it even more possible for everyone else to win. And just because everyone else is winning doesn't mean it takes away from the person who maybe got more exposure first. Does that make sense? Which, by the way, getting exposure first doesn't mean that you're the first to do something. It just means, especially in the world of social media, that, let's face it, is still relatively new within the Pilates industry. If someone goes viral, like for example, a Latina Pilates instructor goes viral, first, it doesn't mean that she's the first Latina, and it doesn't mean that she's the first Latina to do classes for Latinas. It just means that she's the first person to get exposure, which is great for everyone else because that way more Latinos start to see, like, oh, hey, maybe there is space in a Pilates class for me. Maybe I can find a Pilates community around me that feels welcoming. And again, we all win because of that. So, this scarcity mentality that I see so often, especially on social media, I just feel like it doesn't need to be there, and the feelings are valid. Like, I've had these feelings, I've had these thoughts of like, oh, she's winning. That means I'm not going to win as much. And that's not true. Just because one person is featured somewhere doesn't mean that things aren't going to happen for you in your due time. And when you've been a business owner as long as I have and have tried and failed as long as I have, to finally get the recognition you've been working so hard for can put you in a position where you feel like you need to protect it at all costs. And you do to a certain extent, but at the same time, no one can take what you've done away from you. No one can overshadow what you have done and the positive impact that you bring to the table and the people that you've impacted and the way that you've impacted. No one else can do it like you do. So why is it that so many Latinas in the online space especially are so competitive with each other and not collaborative with each other? And I have a few theories about that. And I think the reason why it hits the Latina community so hard is because a lot of us come from communities where you had to survive. Like, things were scarce. I think about my parents a lot because they're business owners. Both my mom and my dad have made a super successful trucking company that my husband works for now. I mean, I think about them, and when they were building their business, it was life or death. It really was. I mean, my dad was young. He was in his early 20s starting a trucking business that he knew nothing about and invested tons of money into buying his truck and had a young family and a baby girl. And I can imagine that when you're put in a position like that, of course, you're going to feel like, oh no, I got to take this job or else someone else is going to take it. Like, yes, of course, that's that way. But I think within the Pilates industry, it's different because when one of my clients enjoys someone else's class and they also enjoy my class, guess what? They can take two classes at different times, but they can support multiple instructors. And I think that's beautiful. And I also remember when I was teaching dance pretty much throughout all my 20s. And I apply a lot of that thinking to this topic now. But I remember I used to tell people, like, you should be taking dance classes from different instructors. Every instructor has something different to offer. And for something that's so self expressive and so unique to your body, take little bits and pieces of what you learn from different people, and that's what's going to make your dancing style unique. And I think that approach needs to be the same within the health and wellness industry. You can apply that to fitness as well. Just because you go to one trainer and then you go to another one doesn't mean that you're betraying the first one. You're just learning different techniques and different ways of doing things and molding it together to find something that feels good for your body, if that makes sense. I also think that because Pilates is such a white dominated industry, we've internalized this idea that there's not enough room for more than one Latina at the table. And it's not just with Pilates. You can apply this to any industry, any job market that is predominantly white. And I don't say that in a bad way, but it's just the reality of what our mentality might be and things that we internalize that we don't even realize that we have. But the reality is there's room for everyone at the table. And what I think is really beautiful about having so many Latinas come up into the space is that, yes, it is to some extent competition, but at the same time, I think that we can turn that into healthy competition that helps us develop who we are as an instructor even more. Like, we can get really granular with what we have to bring to the table. So something that I dealt with a lot, and this is a sign that you're probably operating from a scarcity mentality standpoint, is if you see something online, like maybe another Latina who's doing the same thing you do, and you automatically feel jealous, or maybe she got a collaboration that you think is really cool and you have this feeling of jealousy. This happened to me a lot, especially last year. And so what I did to kind of turn that around is I would keep asking myself, what is this showing me about what I want? Does that collaboration that I think is so cool, is that a collaboration that I want? Is that a direction that I want to go? Or am I just feeling jealous because that thing is really cool and she has it? And it might not necessarily align with the goals and the mission that I have. If that's the case, then there's no need for me to feel jealous. If anything, I should feel happy for them and congratulate them, both privately and publicly. Ideally privately, just because sometimes if you are always complimenting someone publicly, it can feel a little disingenuous. Another thing too is not wanting, like, if you see something online and you don't want to share it, you don't want to post it, and you definitely hope that your clients aren't seeing another Latina in your area also doing what you do. What I've learned to do in those situations where I feel like, oh, I don't want anyone to see that because they're doing the same thing I'm doing, then I usually ask myself, like, why does this feel so threatening to me? And I'll tell you a story. So I had someone come to my event, I think it was in September, and there's certain details of my event that are unique to Alma Pilates and Yoga, which is my studio. And there's little details that you wouldn't really think of until someone literally takes those details and applies it to their event. And the only difference between their event and yours is their logo. And I had this happen to me actually this year. And when I came across their stuff on Instagram because someone had reposted them, I felt, first of all, I thought it was a picture of my event because it was so similar, like down to the colors, the check-in table that we have, the stickers that we offer, the merch that we've bought in and customized to our events. Even that was the same. And of course, initially I felt really betrayed. Like, how could this person come to my event, literally copy paste within my city? Like, one thing is inspiration, the other thing is imitation. And I don't love imitation, let's be real. But then I asked myself, why, why does this feel so threatening? I have built a community and have spent a year building a community of people that keep coming back to my events. It's not just like random people signing up every event. It's people that keep coming back to my events, people that not only come to my events, but then come to my classes regularly. I've built a community like that. And they know me well enough because I'm very open on social media and I'm open with the people that come to my classes. They know when something feels genuine and original to me. And they'll also see when something doesn't feel super original and they see it somewhere else. Your community just knows. And I don't know else to explain that other than trust that your community knows when something feels authentic and original and when something doesn't. And I don't want to go too hard on this person. Honestly, I don't care anymore because like I said, I know what I bring to the table and I know that yes, she might have taken that idea or that event, but I can come up with ideas quickly because I'm used to stimulating that part of my brain. And I don't know what her situation is. I don't know if maybe she is new into the industry and she just figured, oh, everyone must do events like this with these small little details. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. Did I really truly believe that the first week after I found this out? No. But I'm trying to change that part of myself and I'm trying to learn to be a little bit more optimistic with how I view other Latinas and Pilates instructors because the reality is that there's room for all of us. There's clients who will love my teaching style. There's clients who will love her teaching style. There's clients who will love my events, and there's clients that will love her events. And her success doesn't take away from me. Which brings me to something else that has really grounded me and grounded my thoughts pretty quickly whenever I feel these feelings being triggered, is that I remind myself that when you know your own value, someone else's shine won't feel like a threat. And even though you have these feelings of defensiveness at first, if it doesn't matter that you have those feelings because those feelings are valid, but I think the biggest indication of growth and maturity is what you do after those feelings or how quickly you can come out of that mindset. And so those are just some tips that I've learned to do is remind myself, I have my own unique voice. I'm constantly self-reflective of why does this feel threatening? I use that as reflection to think about what do these feelings say about what it is that I want? And to be more clear on that, because I don't know that I'm making much sense. It makes sense in my head, but I just want to be clear. My mission since I started my certification, but really since 2020, when I was actively pursuing this, my mission has always been to get more Latinos doing Pilates, especially within Southern California specifically. So for me, if that's my mission, what does it matter that someone else is going viral on Instagram? What does it matter that someone else is collaborating? What does it matter that someone else is copying my event? If the mission is to get more Latinos doing Pilates, then that's great. They're helping me out in that mission, whether they know it or not. And for me specifically, I've always had this idea of having a platform where I could feature other Pilates instructors that are Latina. Hence this podcast, the Pilates Latina podcast. I'm not the Pilates Latina. I am a Pilates Latina that is hoping to connect with and celebrate and highlight and uplift other Latinas in the Pilates industry. So how silly would it be if that's my mission for this podcast? How silly would it be for me to push those Latinas away and to be defensive and to be standoffish? And even without the podcast, let's say you're planning on opening a studio. I know I plan on having a studio, whether it's a commercial studio or here from my home. It would be silly of me not to think that at some point I'm going to have to hire another Latina Pilates instructor. And why would they want to work for me if I spent all this time being defensive about them, blocking them on Instagram so they wouldn't see my stuff, to so-called copy me? Like that doesn't make sense. And that honestly is what led me last year to burnout, is having that constantly on my mind to the point where I wanted to trademark Conchas y Café. And I'm not saying that trademarking your ideas is a bad thing or selfish or anything like that, but it got to a point where I was just paranoid, and I don't like that side of me, first of all, and it takes up so much brain space that I could use for the purpose of teaching and positively impacting my clients, which is what we do. It's our job. How can we take the benefits of Pilates and apply it to the person in front of us, or to the people in front of us, or to our community? And I think ultimately that is the goal. And if I could change anything about the Pilates industry, aside from more Latinas doing Pilates, is making the Pilates Latina instructor community more collaborative and less competitive. And that's really my goal for this podcast. So it just seemed fitting that my first sort of full length episode would be touching on this subject. And, for example, I just want to say this story. But I get a lot of messages from people saying like, oh, I'm a Latina Pilates instructor as well, and you're so inspiring, and I want to do what you do and host events like you do. What are some tips that you have for me? Those messages last year used to annoy me because I'm like, great, someone else who wants to come into my space. But then at the same time, once I had this like revelation of like, dude, I'm burnt out. Like, where am I wasting my energy? And once I tapped into where I was wasting my energy, then that's when I flipped the narrative, and I would reply back to them saying that like, hey, I love that you're inspired by what I do. I can't wait to see how you come into the industry, or how you host events, or what kind of events you host, because I genuinely want to see what your unique voice is. And I don't mean that to say, or to come across like, I can't wait to see what you do, but don't copy me. I genuinely can't wait to see how people evolve as Pilates instructors. I love people's backstories, hence the podcast. I love learning what makes someone tick. I love learning someone else's business strategies. And it's not so that I can take them and copy them. I might draw inspiration from it, but I genuinely like to learn how people work. I'm the type of person that likes behind the scenes documentaries, or when they have a movie but then there's a book written, I'll automatically go read the book. Or when there's a movie or a celebrity and then there's a documentary about them explaining their childhood. Those are all things that I really love. And so I look at connecting with other Pilates instructors and really learning where they're from and what their story is and what their goals are. I think of it that way now. And once I flip the script in my head, trust me, I found so much more peace that way in my work, in my career. Where I do have an issue, like a strong issue, is so-called Pilates instructors or fitness instructors that do Pilates inspired workouts but aren't certified. That is a huge issue and a huge topic of conversation for a different episode. But I mean, if you're in that camp, we got to talk. But if you're not in that camp and you're genuinely certified, you're genuinely trying to uplift your Latino community, then we don't have an issue. And I don't think that there should be. But I'd love to know what you guys think. If you guys have experienced sort of this like disingenuous support from another Latina, or if you are getting into the Pilates space for the first time and you're starting to experience this, or maybe you are like me on my end where you're feeling reactive in the same ways that I've described. So, just to kind of wrap things up, because I could ramble about this all day, another Latina's success is not a threat. It's just proof that yours is possible too. So, with that said, I hope to hear from you guys and hear your thoughts. I'm genuinely interested. If you are another Pilates instructor and you want to be featured on the podcast, please send me a DM at my Instagram account, Pilates Latina Podcast. And yeah, that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. I'd love to hear from everyone on there, and let me know what you think about the video version. Do you guys watch the video version? Also, sorry for the video version because I do not look my best, nor do I feel my best. But you know what? Sometimes you just got to do things even if it's not perfect. From a recovering perfectionist. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.